So I'm Karen again, the dietitian, been here since September, coming once a month from Charlottesville. I have 3 Lifespire buildings that I look out for. So once a month, I'm yours. It's usually the second Tuesday or the first Tuesday after the second Monday. It's very complicated. But it's the way the work flows and the way the weights come in. So I spend the bulk of my time with healthcare, but I also do consults for independent living, and I have to audit assisted living twice a year. Okay? So today we're going to talk about heart health, and I feel like we're just the tip of the iceberg, because there's so much information out there, and I wanted to hit on some of the more trendy topics, and then the end I want to make sure we talk about what you want to learn for future classes, because I have some things that I'll bring up that I'm prepared for, but I want to bring what you want to hear. Okay, so if you're not feeling what I have already prepared or the topics that I'm prepared for in the future, I will look up anything you want and bring you a presentation as long as it's food and nutrition related. Okay? Alrighty. So I found an article that was fantastic, and if anybody is, I did reference it at the top, the American Journal of Preventive Cardiology. And I took most of my information on there, and where I thought it needed a little bit more updating for the more specific stuff, more trendy stuff, I included that in here. Like, it didn't have enough reference ranges. You'll see. Alrighty. So cardiovascular is the leading cause of death in the country. Does anybody know what the second leading cause of death is? It is, unfortunately. Yes, it is cancer. So they talk about the 10 risk factors. So where do you fit in these 10 categories? And I imagine you will do what I did when I was collecting the information, is looking at myself. What do I qualify for? What should I be concerned with? What can I make a difference on? So the first is just the list of 10, and then we're just going to go through all 10 of them. And speak up, ask questions. I'm very, very informal. Okay, so unhealthful nutrition. Healthful nutrition. It's an interesting way of wording it, but that's their verbiage. And obviously, that's my favorite topic. They want you to emphasize vegetables, ideally not laden with cheese and butter and sauces, but fresh vegetables, fruits, legumes, beans, nuts, whole grains, seeds, and fish, foods rich in monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids, like fish, nuts, and non-tropical vegetable oils. Does anybody know what the tropical vegetable oils might be you would want to steer clear of as much as possible?
Coconut oil.
Yes. Who's got the other one? I'll give you a hint. Palm kernel. Excellent. Or palm oil. Yep. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
What did she say the other one was?
Palm. Palm. Yeah, I gave the hint. That was my hint. So, yes. Okay. And yes, speak up anytime. So, following a Mediterranean diet, and I saw that you have the Blue Zone menu options in your dining room 3 days a week. I think I looked at this week's menu one, or the DASH diet. And they have, and I can, that is highlighted yellow because that is the opportunity for a future class just looking at those diets if you want. That's why that's yellow. And those diets have the most evidence. So researched, trustworthy, documented proof that these actually make a difference, okay? And then this article, even though it was back to 2021, did list time-restricted eating, which I believe they call intermittent fasting now. If you go back to the 80s, it would be called skipping a meal. But we just keep it trendy, keep it fresh by changing the verbiage, okay? And then things to limit, which would be saturated fats from processed or red meat, the tropical oils, excessive sodium processed foods, sugar-sweetened beverages, alcoholic beverages, and trans fat. So let's talk about trans fat for a second. Trans fat is a man-made concoction. They wanted oils to be spreadable and shelf-stable, so they took oil and made it into margarine. And in that process of making it solid at room temperature and spreadable, they changed the bond. And we have learned since then, back when you got away from butter and ate margarine, anybody remember that? Yes, Country Crock? they learned that that was actually worse because the body did not recognize it, and it's very, very bad for your heart. If you read food labels, it is not going to say trans fat. It's going to say hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated, and that's how you're going to know it's a trans fat. And that is a man-made version to make oil solid at room temperature, a spreadable consistency, which is actually not naturally yellow. They actually have to add food coloring to make it look like butter. Alrighty, so
Now, what is this time-restricted eating of the 14 hours?
yeah, so you don't eat 14 hours a day.
I don't eat.
You don't.
I don't spread between meals 14 hours.
No, you get 10 hours to eat and 14 hours to fast, to not eat. But a portion of that, you're sleeping, so that makes it easy. And some people go much, much lower than that. They'll restrict themselves to 8 hours a day of eating or 6 hours a day of eating. So you would eat 1 or 2 meals.
You can't eat 8 hours a day, so
Not
once you do,
nonstop. So once you
within that 8 hours.
break your fast, then you have 8 hours to not continuously eat, but to eat, and then you stop eating, and then you have that 14-hour wraparound to the next day that you don't have any calories at all. Has anybody heard of intermittent fasting? Yeah, it's very, very popular.
I eat lunch, but nothing else. The rest of the day, normally.
No snack, no cream in your coffee.
No.
Okay, all right. 1 meal a day, period.
Sort of doing that, I guess.
Okay, and I would love to do a whole class on metabolic syndrome, and that would really go really deep into the intermittent fasting and what that does to your blood sugars. So that is also an option I've listed on the bottom of the second page. Okay, so physical inactivity, they listed as number 2. So just being sedentary is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular, heart attacks, and strokes are included. That's all part of your vascular system. So the goals would be to, and anything is better than nothing. So even just light activity, as much as you can give, is better than nothing. But if you have goals and you want to aim for something, it's 50 minutes a week of moderate intensity, so a bit of a brisk walk or pedaling on a bike, and then stationary or whatever, and then or 75 minutes or more of high intensity, which would be more like a jog, or where you're really getting your heart rate up, you're really sweating, and not just because of the temperature. And then the real push is muscle strengthening 2 to 3 times a week is supposed to have incredible benefits on your heart status. And when they look retrospectively at people that live longer, they associate your thigh muscle mass and your thigh strength with longevity. So working your large muscle groups. Okay? Would you like a handout? We'd love to have you. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Alrighty. Dyslipidemia is sort of a blanket term for your lipid labs. Okay? And there's so much information out there. I read a lot about if you take your triglycerides and divide it by your good cholesterol, your HDL, that can give you a score, and that score can relate to your heart health. But I couldn't find any research data that really backed that up. So the labs that we get are actually not predictors of where you'll be in the future. They're sort of a snapshot of now. So I would not discourage you from the next time you go to your doctor to say, hey, could you look at my ApoB, your apolipoprotein B, or my LDL particle number? Because those are actually more of a predictor of what is happening in your body and the damage that could be causing. So the way I understood it is that your LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol, can actually contain in itself variable amounts of cholesterol. And that's what these labs will look at, like how bad, not just quantitatively, but each molecule, how bad is that molecule?
Do you
Okay.
know if a lab that's common for a lab, or do you have to have a special?
It is a special lab.
Okay.
Yep. It is something you would have to ask for. If you just get a lipid panel Unless they've changed something in the last month, these are not standard labs. Our healthcare system tends to want to treat us in the now and not look at it in a preventative fashion, from my perspective, and from what they say online as well. So if you look at those, and I did put the reference ranges in there, so if you get your ApoB, you don't want it to be higher than 130, because that puts you at a higher risk. And then the LDL particle number, which is different from your LDL, also might be called your LDL-C. You want it to be less than 1,000. And then I put a quote from the article, and I'm not trying to do this to stir the pot, but this was straight out of the research. So it says we're on 3B, the bottom of the first page. Largely because of convention, what we're used to, and because coronary vascular disease outcome trials of lipid-altering drugs have specified LDL-C, that's the one that's normally part of the panel, as the primary lipid efficacy parameter. Therefore, LDL remains the primary lipid treatment target. So what that means is because Lipitor brings down your LDL, we have a focus on LDL, and we have a focus on statin drugs. Probably a lot of you are on statin drugs. And there is variable scientific research to the long-term benefits. The most recent thing I looked at said it might add 3 or 4 days. And that's different if you've already had an event. If you've never had an event, like a heart attack or a mini stroke or whatever, that's, your risk factors are different than if you've already had versus not had an event. Okay? So, we love our statins because pharmaceutical companies have a lot of money. And that's what they focus on. Their drugs lower that. Therefore, it's a parameter that we look at. Alrighty. I believe the next one, it cut off at an unfriendly page. Hyperglycemia. I can do a whole class on just diabetes, or I can just focus on or include in that class insulin resistance. And that would get more in depth. And I can be as technical as you want me to be. I tend to do a combination of keeping it simple and having the science back behind it so that it makes more sense, because I don't want you to think that I brought you something that is not research-based. But I want you to walk away understanding what I'm saying. So I try not to make it too complex without making it too simple. Alrighty.
Are
So,
there foods that can arrest or remove diabetes from your body? Like advertisements that they'll come out, oh, you eat this or take this particular medicine, your diabetes is gone. That sounds pretty big to me. But
so there are 2 kinds of diabetes.
yeah, 1 and 2.
You cannot cure the first one. That would be type 1 diabetes. That means your body's not putting out any insulin at all. You will always have to take some external insulin, all right, with a pump or injections or whatever, okay? So then the other time is type 2 diabetes, and if you catch that early enough, in large part, that is curable. That type 2 diabetes can be curable, but it would be very much focused on this insulin resistance, timing of your meals, and then when you sit down, what do you put in your mouth first? Because what you put in your mouth first matters almost more than what you put on your plate and what you intend to eat. Do you want to talk about that for a minute? And then we can go into the next class as well, or one of the classes on insulin resistance.
The reason I asked the question is I see advertisements
Yep.
that says, don't worry about diabetes, you do this, it'll be gone and you'll be back to normal again. And that,
I didn't see the same advertisement you saw, so I can't speak specifically to that. But if they're asking for your money,
I think it's another scam, really.
it could very well be. They are, there are so many. I've had 3 or 4 text messages in the last week, people reaching out to me just like, hey, how you doing? I got the wedding dress. Do you want to see it? And they're not, you know what I mean? They're just trying to chat me up, and why? Anyway, so I just delete them, call them spam. All right, so let's talk about the order of eating, and then we're going to get deeper into that if we go back to insulin resistance. So I don't want to ruin it all for the next class, but your body digests things in the order you eat them. So if you eat things that don't run your sugar up first, which would be fat, fiber, and protein, if you eat those foods first, then the carbohydrates coming later won't have such a spike in your insulin need. So your blood sugar might not go up because you're not diabetic, but you're still requiring all of that insulin to come and take that out of your bloodstream. Okay? So it's always a balancing act. That's what diabetes, a balancing act of, or insulin resistance, of how much insulin versus how much you ate. So if you have simple foods on your plate, like a chicken breast, broccoli, and a baked potato, and you eat your chicken and your broccoli before your baked potato, you're not going to require as much insulin as if you ate the baked potato first, because that baked potato is your carbohydrate. And I don't know what you know, so we didn't start with square one on what's a carbohydrate and what's a fat and what's a protein.
You have to eat foods in sequence. That's a new one.
You don't have to.
Just 1, 2, 3.
But if you have insulin resistance, and I will admit openly, I just found out a month ago, I have insulin resistance. So I am very, very, very interested in this topic, and I would love to share a whole class with you. Because there are like the tests that we get done, like an A1C doesn't tell you, all right, I'm like doing this whole other class, and I feel like I'm not starting at the beginning. Who gets their A1C done? Do you know what it is? So if you stick your finger or test your blood, it tells you your blood sugar now, okay? If you get your A1C drawn, that's your average blood sugar over 2 to 3 months, okay? So anybody that's had high blood sugar would have an A1C done to see how bad it's been. And that value directly correlates to what your average blood sugar has been. So the higher your A1C, the higher your average blood sugar has been over the last 2 to 3 months. So you would want to keep that under very tight control to prevent everything from getting worse. It escalates. Oh, I'm really ruining my next class. I'm so hesitant on what to share. So but you can use that as a predictor with other labs to see, are you headed for type 2 diabetes? And I did those labs, like testing your fasting insulin level. Again, another lab that I don't normally do. But if you can get your fasting insulin level, you can see if your insulin is running high. And if it's running high, that means your body is not using it efficiently. And that's where I am. So these labs here, the A1C, the fasting blood glucose, and the random glucose any other time of day, those values can tell you where you are now. But there are other labs that can tell you if you're headed in that direction. And if you have questions, if you have skin tags on your neck or your groin, I have 3 on this eyelid, those skin tags are telling you that you might be insulin resistant. Or if you have the dark pigmentation, I'm going to forget the name of it under pressure. I didn't write it on this paper. But that can be a sign of it. Heavy weight in the middle, that can be a sign of it. There are other just visible indicators that you might be insulin resistant and headed towards type 2 diabetes, which is right on the path to cardiovascular disease. So it's important to know where you are. Are you insulin resistant? Okay, let's do that on our next class. Okay, is everybody okay with that? There seems to be some significant interest in that. Okay, if you have a history of gestational diabetes, which is diabetes while you were pregnant, you have double the risk for cardiovascular disease. Does anybody want to confess if they had gestational diabetes? Anybody know anyone that's ever had gestational diabetes? Yeah, so it's unfortunate, but a lot of the people that have gestational diabetes are probably overweight and have this pattern of insulin resistance. Again, preventable. Alrighty, blood pressure. Oh, so common and so important to control. You need to know what your values are. You need to take your medications without fail, and then you need to self-manage your stress. You have to calm your own storm. So no matter what life throws your way, you have to keep that in check. You have to keep yourself at a relatively calm state. And life will pick something new to throw at you. My windshield has a crack in it. I'm going to try to sell my car, and it's going to cost me $1,000. It's just money. It's just money, right? You just have to keep yourself in a positive outlook. And we can do a whole thing on stress if you want to. Stress and inflammation, which is also nutrition related. So I offer that as well. Alrighty. So there is nutrition with high blood pressure, but you can go back to the prior page for just the basic nutrition portion. okay? And then overweight and obesity, and that is measured by your BMI, okay? Most people will know what their BMI is, but if you're overweight, so normal is 18.5. I didn't put normal in here. 18.5 to 24.9. And once you hit 25, you're overweight. And then once you hit 30, you're obese. And then once you hit 40, you're morbidly obese. They all have increased risk of cancer and metabolic syndrome, which is linked to with, or the same as, depending on where you look at it, insulin resistance. We keep coming back to that same topic. Okay? I didn't expound on number 7, age, race, ethnicity, and gender, but different parts of the world, different genders, and different ages have different risk factors. Those are things I cannot influence, you cannot influence. So I left that alone from a nutrition standpoint. Number 8 should be number 1. I know, put it above nutrition. Smoking and having blood clots, thrombosis or blood clots. A major contributor to cardiovascular morbidity. So if you have an event, it's more likely to be terminal. And it's the leading cause, smoking is the leading cause of preventable deaths. Is this a smoke-free campus, or can you smoke here? Complete thing, the whole place. So nobody here should be a closet smoker. Okay, outstanding. I love to hear that. And hopefully that is the case. So it's the number 1 cause of preventable deaths. Kidney dysfunction. We tend to lose a little kidney function with time. It's important. That is part of a normal lab panel to see what your kidney function is, because kidney function is damaging and can increase your cardiovascular risk by 5 to 10-fold. Okay, I also did not expand on genetic abnormalities, because if you've been diagnosed with familial hypercholesterolemia, there's a mouthful, you would just take medicine. That would be, manage your lifestyle just like everything else, and then make sure to take your medicine, because the risk factors are very, very high. See heart attacks in people in their 20s if you have that genetic problem. Alrighty, so the insulin resistance is very near and dear to my heart. And it starts with understanding, I'm backtracking a little because of the interest. Backtracking a little. So there are only 3 sources of calories, okay? You have your fats, and when you digest fats, they don't turn into sugar. They just don't. They turn into fatty acids, and they're absorbed and used as fatty acids. And then you have protein, that's your second source of calories, and that's mostly like your meats, right? Meats, nuts, eggs, cheese, things like that. When you digest those become amino acids, not sugar. They don't run your sugar up. And then everything else is a carbohydrate. So, and a lot of things we eat are a combination. Any casseroles, any soups, you fry your food, you've just turned a vegetable into a breaded product, and breads are carbohydrates, okay? So, has anybody heard of glycemic index? So glycemic index, they literally fed people foods and then saw what it did to their blood sugar. So they know exactly, if you eat this food, this is what it's going to do. They gave it an indices of effect on your blood sugar. So those are all carbohydrate foods that they're talking about. But if you have like a hot dog's going to have some carbs in it too. It might have some sugar. Could be loaded with sodium most likely. But so most of our foods are combination foods. So when I gave the example on if you want to watch your blood sugar at a meal and your insulin resistance, you eat your broccoli and your chicken breast first, and then you eat your baked potato after, so digestion has already started, then that helps your body manage that, because it's focusing on the protein and the fiber and the fat, and it doesn't, the sugar just coming right in there just doesn't have that same impact. It's dulled, okay? It still gets digested, it still gets used, it benefits the body. You can't go without carbohydrates. Another fad diet is the carnivore diet. Not recommended. No good research on that at all. Even though people love their meat and think it would be enough, it's not. We're hunter-gatherers. All right. So, eating your fiber and your fat and your protein first can have a beneficial impact. Waiting longer between meals, because it gives your insulin a chance to recover back down to normal, can have a positive impact. Not snacking between meals gives your insulin a chance to go back to normal before the next meal. and can have a positive impact. Choosing healthier foods has a positive impact. And we don't recommend perfection because perfection is not realistic. We love our food. As Americans, we love our holidays. We celebrate everything with food, right? So try to do the 80-20 rule. If you're good 80% of the time, 80% of your meals, then the 20% that you're not good should not hurt you, okay? I don't preach or demonstrate perfection, so 80-20, okay? So I talked for 30 minutes.
Give me an answer if you can on red meat opposed to white meat. I read somewhere that now the red meat is considered more healthier than the white meat, which we've heard for years, right? Don't eat red meat because it's bad for you. You know, your beef and whatnot. Have you approached that or done anything? Or
It depends on what angle you look at it, okay? For starters, you don't need meat daily. You just don't. And if you're talking about red meat that's like a lean cut versus, you know, a high-fat ground hamburger, those are not equal things. You would want to go with the leaner meat. Or if, you know, it's got a bunch of gravy on it, you know, you really want to compare apples to apples. So the cuts make a difference. Also, did you choose chicken that was like, you know, farm raised and had a chance to graze and it's truly healthier for you? Or are you choosing chicken that's like, you know, processed and it's cut into cold cuts and full of byproducts?
Well,
It matters.
I have to ask the question, do you have, as a dietitian, any input? Like, the biggest complaint we have in this facility is the food service.
Do you?
Yes.
In this nice fancy dining room?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you have an input of we have a committee, food committee, that's supposed to review the dishes that's prepared and the types and all. The dietitian is on and off, you know, we're here, okay.
You have had a dietitian on the committee before? I haven't
on
been.
the committee,
Oh.
but in the facility.
Right.
And I guess I don't know what your role, we need your role input, so the executive chef can get some of these ideas when he's preparing the menu.
So if he puts healthier items on, will you choose them? Because that's what I saw when I helped at the Culpeper, another LifeSpire facility.
Well, one thing they've done here is remove most of the seasoning, because we don't like spicy hot foods. Some people love them, that's what they want. But now the food we get is pretty bland as far as seasoning goes. The worst thing is the soup, and the soup comes out of a can, so
Does it?
it's salty.
No, I think they make the soups.
No.
Yes, in-house soups, in-house gravies. Everything that they can do in-house, they're doing.
And I can't testify to that because I don't watch them prepare the foods. I
You
don't.
should eat in there sometime.
I think I should too.
Just to check.
Does anybody
it out.
want me to have it at their table for dinner tonight? Going once?
I eat lunch, I don't eat
No.
dinner. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
if I were invited to go to dinner, I would go to dinner.
if you had an input that they would listen to, said, hey, she says this is unhealthy, so we're gonna change it to something else. I think would be a good idea, but I don't know what your time, your schedule, or anything like that is, but once you come by here and the dietitian has been here and she had a fit because the food was so-and-so, you know, well, it's off and on. Sometimes the food is excellent. Sometimes, like yesterday, I sent my chicken breast back. It was so tough and stringy, and I couldn't eat it.
So what was excellent? What was the last thing you remember being like top notch? Chef's kiss. Testing your memory?
I had to think of it.
So they asked me to do that, same thing at the Culpeper. And we rolled out some healthier items. And they served like 1 or 2 portions of it. So there is a group, some value of people that are going to choose the healthier items. And I saw that you have the blue zone items on the menu. And I don't know what percentage of you are choosing that.
I've never,
But
I've never tried see it on there.
Yeah, those are the healthier, more Mediterranean style meals.
Yeah, I don't know what taste-wise, what it's like. I haven't tried it.
Right, you might be proving my point with what you're saying. You have to choose the healthier items so that they know you're going to get, you know, you want those and that you're going to, if they make it, you have to order it.
So from your point of view, that item on the menu
Is the healthier choice.
should be,
Yep, that is supposed to be.
Okay.
Okay? Yep. And do you guys have a chance to like build your own salads?
No.
Like if you, no?
We do all day.
On Sunday? Okay. But not on a daily basis. You couldn't say, I want a salad with lettuce and spinach and tomato and carrots and celery. No? Chicken breast? No? I would recommend that. Who's on the committee? Anyone in here on the food committee?
Yeah, they're hard to find.
Are they? Is it a big committee? Is it like limited to just a few people?
Yeah, it's just 4 or 5 people. I understand. I don't know. But those kind of things is where we need the input.
You're welcome. I will have input wherever they would like me to have input.
Well, you've got an audience today. Apparently, they're happy. They're not asking any questions or saying anything. So I guess everything is good.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like for you to let the chef know that the menu needs to include more leafy green vegetables. We're not getting that.
Are you referring to like cold things like a salad plate, or are you thinking more like greens?
Like salad greens, spinach,
Cooked, okay.
potato, collards.
Okay.
They'll tell you that we have broccoli. That's an everyday thing, but not the greens.
Okay. I can definitely pass that on.
Have all broccoli and carrots.
Okay.
Yeah, broccoli's every day, and they finally they cook it till it's completely tender, which is good. It's not hard and tough or anything.
And that depends on the day.
But
I've had it so hard, I almost had it sent back.
Oh.
yeah, I haven't had that problem. It's been really good the times I've had it, but I don't want it every day. You know, it gets old. But
But there's like 10 things down there on the sides that you can choose. It doesn't have to be broccoli, it can be green beans or whatever their variety is for that week. Potatoes, sweet potatoes.
So I've been doing classes at the Culpeper, and I've referenced the Culpeper because it's a sister facility, and I've been there over 4 years, and here I've only been here a few months, so I'm still learning you all, and you're learning me. You know, what can I approach Karen about, and you know, my availability and whatnot. Anyway, when I do this class, at the end, which I intend to do, we pick for the next class. What do you want to do? If this class remains this small, and I stay in this room, we can branch out. So like if we take the first few months and we really hit the nutrition topics hard and talk about insulin resistance and talk about the gut biome and talk about diabetes and really like rev up your knowledge, I would like to take it into a little more of a lecture type series and let you sample some things. Maybe some fruits you haven't had. Or I've done blind taste testing of vanilla ice cream to see if you can tell what's Haagen-Dazs and what's Food Lion. And we had to have like 4 or 5 different kinds of ice cream. This month they wanted chocolate taste testing for Valentine's Day at the Culpeper. So I spent $120 on chocolate, and we tried 7 different chocolates without knowing what they were. Like you knew we did the milk chocolates together. The white chocolate was obvious. You knew we were doing the dark chocolates together, and then we did the grand finale of the Dubai chocolate that everybody's talking about, just to like maybe try something new. I've also done taste testing of different flavored vinegars. Does anybody love vinegar as much as I do? Nobody? You? Excellent. I love vinegar. And I can get these little, what? You had it today? That's all I put on my salad. I don't need like ranch or blue cheese or oil even. I just like the flavored vinegar. So anyway, I would like to start with the nutrition because I would like to get us like through some basic structure and to know like what labs you might need or what you might be looking at for your own health or your family's health.
how did the ice cream turn out? They picked
No, they had no idea. They had no idea. No,
it couldn't have been all the same though.
no. I got 5 different kinds.
Yeah, but not when you taste test.
You can't tell.
It's all tastes the same.
They could not tell which one was Haagen-Dazs, which one was
I
Food
can.
Lion.
I can tell when they change
Oh,
brand.
challenge on. Challenge accepted. I've done blind taste testing of milk, and if you don't look at your milk, you can't tell if it's skim or whole milk. I've done it. I've done taste testing of Kool-Aid. So, you can buy the Kool-Aid that's just the color and the flavor, and then you sweeten it yourself. And I used 4 or 5 different sweeteners. And I was surprised you couldn't tell which one and which one wasn't sugar. So one of them was sugar, and there was like aspartame, sweet and low, Splenda. Anyway, I think I had at least 5. And so they all looked like red cups of Kool-Aid, and then you were supposed to try to guess which, yeah. So it doesn't have to just be information.
Yeah, they have competitions on food and different
Oh, a
kinds of-
competition with a trophy.
Yeah, so they can't all be the same.
No, but it's hard. You'd be surprised what you think you know. Because you would assume, like if I serve you like 4 different kinds of milk in clear glasses, and you can like see the viscosity against the glass and whatnot, you're going to have a pretty good chance. If I serve that to you in a styrofoam cup with a lid and a straw, So people that think they can't reduce to skim milk,
Well, appearance is important.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It absolutely is. Mm.
Because you look at the food, I don't like that food. Never tasted it, but it don't look good, so I don't like it.
But it might be fantastic. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So those were my suggestions. The insulin resistance. Oh, yes, sir.
I'll have to admit, after I had my heart attack, and I went through
Cardiac rehab.
cardiac rehab, we had a dietitian come every Wednesday,
Yep. I've been a cardiac rehab dietitian.
had a meal,
Oh,
every Wednesday. And I have to confess, I didn't like it.
none of them were good.
We had chili one day, of course it didn't have meat, had something, legumes,
Uh-huh.
something substituting for the meat. And it was only 40 milligrams of sodium in it. And she compared it to a small chili from Chili's, from Wendy's.
Oh, Wendy's is the
It was
best chili.
12
Yeah.
1,200 milligrams.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, they put cheese on it and everything.
That cheese,
Yep.
But that chili,
Yep.
I just couldn't hardly eat it.
So some of that is because for how many ever years you've been alive, you've been eating it that way.
Been eating salt.
Right. So, like, look how many of you came. And there's so many of you, hundreds of you that didn't come because you're going to eat what you're going to eat. And you're going to take what life throws at you. So you are the proactive, curious people. Is there something I could be doing better? And the things that I suggested, I didn't even tell you really, don't eat that. I just said 80-20. I said, if you're going to eat that last. Eat your carbs last. I am not a role model, but I'll bet you next month when you come back, I'm down at least 5 more pounds. Because when I found out I was insulin resistant, I got so upset. I blame those 3 little skin tags on my eyelid on this makeup, this primer that I got. No, it is not. I told my sister she's insulin resistant. Right over her head. She couldn't care less. But that really shook me up. That shook me up. So you look at me next week. Here you go. Next month, and you see if I don't look just a little bit better. Of course, I won't have winter clothing on then, but anyway, we'll see. All right? So we'll all be motivated together. But if you see the healthier items on the menu, try it at least. Try it, because it's on there. Okay? So what do you think? Insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome? And then do the gut microbiome. Has anybody ever heard about that? Ooh, I've got lots of information on that. I really dug deep in that one. And then I'll just combine the diabetes with the first one. So maybe the next class we'll do insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, and then we'll go into the gut microbiome. If you want something else that's truly like lecture oriented like that, we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll blend that in, education along the way, because I love to talk about what they're talking about lately. Whatever they're, the latest gimmicks, and I want to talk it through with you. We'll combine that with trying different vinegars and different ice creams and different Kool-Aids and exposing you to stuff that maybe is not in here, or, presumptions that we all have that we can dissipate. Yes, sir.
One more thing, what we learned through the cardiac rehab was what do you call it, Pritikin diet.
Oh,
That's what she taught.
I have not heard that term in so long. I would have to research it. Very interesting.
That's a little
She
saltless.
used,
Yes, very low.
Yeah.
1950s. He had a major heart attack, and they told him he was going to die within a month or two, and he proved it wrong with eating.
Atkins is quite similar, though, yes?
We're not familiar with that.
Atkins is meat and vegetables. A lot of people go straight meat, which is where that comes from, but it does include low-carb vegetables.
I will be prepared to discuss that next month.
Well, when I came home.
It was 3rd of July when we came home, and she sent a message through our daughter-in-law, do not eat hot dogs. Celebration 4th of July is eat hot dogs in America, and she sent our daughter-in-law our house to tell us, do not have Mr. Martin eat a hot dog after what he's been through.
Did you eat a hot dog?
Didn't eat a hot dog for
For over
probably.
a year. For over a year, we didn't.
That's aggressive. I'm not that aggressive. That's impressive. Calling the family, ratting you out ahead of time.
But
Wow.
our daughter-in-law is a nurse.
So, anyway, she was
Oh.
friends with the cardiologist and anyway, the whole 9 yards, but hot dogs are off our
Excellent.
eating.
Way too much sodium.
Any kind of processed meat.
Yes.
Well, hot dog is good.
Funny, I just read this
I bet if you saw it made, though, you would change your mind about that.
Well, I know,
There's
but
different
we're
types of
wondering
hot dogs.
80-20.
Yes.
Should we introduce hot dogs back into our 20%, which
Is that what you would pick first? Is hot dogs?
I would.
And ideally, if you haven't had a hot dog in a while, you would bite into that and be like, that is so salty.
after Atkins donuts taste absolutely horrid.
Mm.
But what I read this morning in the UAE, they're having a competitive kind of thing with a Costco and their dollar hot dog. They have a 20-inch hot dog.
Oh my gosh.
20-inch hot dog.
They'll even take you to your car on a stretcher. Wow. That's not in your best
Sodium,
interest.
We did learn a lot about sodium, and that's one thing I know someone commented on the soups. Personally, I think Chef might consider less sodium, because when you eat some of the soups, there's no question, there's a tremendous amount of salt. And
There's a
you'd be
lot less than there used to be, though.
Well, I probably would agree with that, but I don't think less sodium is something.
It's still low enough.
It's just an
And it's-
observation.
It is, and it's also very relative. So if you're coming from a background of cutting out sodium and being very, very strict for a while versus, laying it on, your perception of that same bowl of soup is going to be very, very different.
It is, and you have to train your taste buds.
Yes.
There's no question you have to.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah, my boyfriend salts his food before he tastes it. And we're at 17 and a half years next week, and I'm trying so hard to still break him of that. You haven't even tasted it yet.
They do it here. People.
Oh, yeah.
Good grab the
I've seen people salt chicken noodle soup. Campbell's chicken noodle soup does not need salt, and I've seen it. I've seen people put mayonnaise on Jell-O. I've seen crazy stuff. Yes. How did you even come up with that? Mayonnaise on your Jell-O. All right. So diabetes, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome, which we touched base on, but I'll go in deeper. And then I'll be prepared to discuss Atkins versus Pritikin. And then we'll do the gut microbiome, which is your intestinal bacteria and how you want it to be good and not bad, and how to help make it good. We're going to get into resistant starches. It's going to be so interesting. All right, so that'll be March and April. And then at the end, we'll always discuss to make sure that's still what you're interested in. And then we can talk about doing other things intermingled with, not we're just going to do only food, but intermingled with other things. And my diabetes class, the cardiac rehab program, was at breakfast time. I was in there first thing in the morning. They were like walking before work, so I should have done meals. But I've done classes all along, and I've made like tofu pizza and stuff. I've made it all, It's fun. It's fun. I will introduce you to what you want to learn about. Questions? Comments? A good group. I really like this group.
we'll try and spread the word,
Excellent.
because certainly we need more
Yeah.
residents.
Well, I have, I think she wanted these extra handouts. Does anybody else need an extra handout for somebody that didn't come? You do? Couple? Yep. Anyone else? Okay. I'll leave these back by her computer. I'm going to turn the video off now. You were all recorded too, not just me.
So you can see this after, I mean, like what I missed, I could hear it again.
I don't know what she does with the video, but I believe that's the idea.